One of the easiest things you can do to nail your interview is bring great questions to the interview. Because at the end of the interview, they're going to ask you, do you have any questions for me? Most candidates do not have questions, and the ones that do, most of the time they don't have great questions. This is no different at AT&T. In today's video, I'm going to give you 5 great questions you can ask at the end of your AT&T interview that separates you from other candidates and increases the likelihood of you getting a job offer. Now, this is video 4 of a 4-part series, so if this is the first video you are seeing in the series, make sure you go to the playlist, How to Get a Job at AT&T, and watch the first 3 videos. And make sure you stay to the very end, because at the very end, I'm actually going to tee up another video on the screen that's going to be really helpful in your pursuit of getting hired there. All right, let's get started. Now, the first question that I always tell people you need to ask is, what does this person need to accomplish in the first 90 days in order for you to consider this hire to be a success? This is really important. Now, the 90 days part, feel free to swap with a timeline that you feel makes sense. That could be 6 months, it could be a year, just depending on the level of the role and how success is going to be measured. Feel free to swap that out. This is a great question for a few reasons. One, you want to know what their expectations are of you. Do you feel you can meet those expectations? And do you feel those expectations are realistic? And have they taken the time to actually think about what success looks like, and are they able to articulate it to you? This is really important. It also makes you look like a candidate who is very forward thinking and is already thinking about succeeding in the role. So it's a great question to ask. The next question is, what attracted you to AT&T? Or if they've been there for a really long time, what keeps you here at AT&T? This is a great question because it gives the person interviewing you an opportunity to talk themselves. Most people, when they have an interaction with another human being, they have a more positive recollection of that interaction when they get to talk, specifically when they get to talk about things they care about, things they're passionate about. So if a person who is interviewing you actually gets a chance to talk about why they love their job, why they love working here, what was the key to making them pursue the role in the first place, that is something that's going to make them have a positive recollection of this interview. It also gives you good insight into the organization, if they are happy there, if they're happy in their role, and it gives you good information if you want to send them a thank you email after the email. A thank you email, if it's generic, does nothing for you. But if it includes things from your interaction with a person, it does come off more meaningful and can actually help your candidacy. So if they say, oh, I was attracted because of the culture and the culture's been amazing, right? They say something like that. When you send a thank you email, you could say, hey, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today and to answer my questions. It really resonated with me when you talked about the culture, and that's why you enjoy your job. I'm looking for a place where I can really be a part of a great culture, so that really hit home with me. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I look forward to next steps. Something like that. It's a great thank you email, and it's actually meaningful because it references something they said in the interview. The next question you might want to ask is, what does onboarding and training look like for the person who gets hired into this role? It's a great question because you want to know, are they going to set you up for success? A lot of companies just hire people and then they don't have a good program. They just expect them to do well, out of the frying pan into the fire, that type of thing. And that doesn't always work out. And you don't want to be that person. Ideally, when you take a new job, you're stepping into a situation where they are intentional about setting you up for success, teaching you, mentoring you, having someone run alongside you as you start with the organization to make sure you are set up for success. So as a candidate, I always want to hear what that plan is. What are you going to do to make sure I am successful? Now, this is a more palatable way to say that sentence, but it's really good to just listen and hear. What are their plans? Are their plans good? Again, this is also one of those things that frames you as a candidate who is focused on success, focused on learning initially and doing everything you can to get ramped up speed and contribute to the team immediately. So it's a great question for a lot of reasons. Another question I love asking is, what are the skills and the behaviors of the most effective team members here at AT&T? It's a great question because you're basically asking, okay, the best people, what makes them the best? This gives you an opportunity to listen to the person actively, nodding, smiling, okay. And then when they give those qualities, to respond, talking about how you also possess those qualities. Now, you don't want to say it like that. You need to say it in a more nuanced way. But if they say, Ben, the things that make the people most successful here is attention to detail and work ethic. You can say, thank you for that answer. That's kind of what I thought you might say. For me, I think attention to detail and work ethic are incredibly important, and I would attribute some of my past success to also having those attributes and applying them in my previous roles. Something like that lets them know, hey, I have the same qualities that you look for in your best people? It's a great question just to learn like what makes people tick. And if this is earlier on, like if you still have multiple interviews, that lets you know that you want to talk about some of those qualities in the upcoming interviews. You want to give examples of your attention detail. You want to give examples of your hardworking attitude. So this is a great great question to ask because you get really good information that you can respond to in the moment, but also if there are more interviews, you can use this information to position yourself as a successful candidate as you move forward in the process. Now, the last question that you want to ask is, do you have any questions or concerns about my ability to do the job? I call this a closing question. And when I was a headhunter running a full desk, I told all of my candidates to say this in their final interview. And the reason I wanted them to do this is because one of two things will happen. One, they'll say, no, I don't have any concerns, at which point you can let them know you are interested. You can say, that's great to hear. I also think I'd be a really good fit for this role and I'm excited about next steps. And you're just letting them know you are interested. Everybody wants to hire someone who wants their job. You're not doing anything to impact your leverage. You're just letting them know, I am interested. And you want them to feel that way as you get closer to going to offer. The other thing that could happen is they go, well, yeah, Ben, I don't think you have as much frontline customer-facing experience. They could say a concern. And this gives you an opportunity to rebuttal their concern. And if you don't ask this question, you'll never get a chance to rebuttal it. Whether you ask this question or not, they have their concerns if the concerns exist. But this actually gives you an opportunity to combat those concerns. So if they say, yeah, I have A, B, and C concern, it's really important you react the right way. You go, you know what? Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate you being candid here. I will say, I probably didn't do the best job answering your questions and showcasing in my resume. I actually do have some experience doing A, B, and C. And it's one of the areas I feel really confident in. For example, I worked at blank company, and in that role, I did plenty of A, B, and C activity. And what you've done there is you've respectfully, calmly, non-defensively rebutted their concern, which can put them at ease and increase the likelihood of you getting an offer. It's a really important thing to do as you get to the very end of the interview. Another thing that's really important to understand is that first interviews and final interviews are very different. And if you're a good candidate and you get to the final interview, you need to prepare differently. It's why I made this video here. This video here teaches you exactly what you need to do to nail a final round interview. So I'm done here. I'll see you over there.